us today. My name is Patty Garcia. We're going to go ahead and get started just in the interest of time. We actually have this room till 7, so we have to vacate quickly for the next class to come in. So my name is Patty Garcia. I'm the program manager for elective experiential education programs here at the School of Business. So I have the great pleasure of working with our faculty and also with our partner institutions abroad to get you all overseas on these short-term programs. So we're going to today talk about a couple of things. First, I'm just going to give you a short introduction. Then I'm going to pass it on to the faculty to talk about their individual programs. They'll have 5 to 7 minutes to present. Then they'll have a former participant, if they do have one, that's attending, talk about their experience. Then we're going to have an open time for questions for that specific program. And so please go ahead and ask your questions. Other students might have the same question or may not have thought of your questions, so please go ahead and bring those up for the benefit of the group. Then I'm going to talk about our short-term exchange opportunities, which are through our partner universities. I'll talk also about long-term study abroad, which is also an opportunity that is available to you. Then I'm going to give you the nitty-gritty on the application process. We'll open it up to final questions if we have time. And then we have a reception right outside in the second floor lobby where you'll have the opportunity to talk to our faculty individually about their programs and also the former participants while enjoying some refreshments. All right, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is why study abroad. So I don't really have to make a huge argument for you all since you're here and interested in study abroad already. But just to go through some of the reasons. First, you may want to expose yourself to a new region, a new sector, for example. And these programs are a great way of doing that and of exposing you to new ways of doing business. Secondly, you might want to enhance skills for these programs, and these are a great opportunity to do that. So, for example, you can enhance, the typical skills that come with study abroad. For example, being more adaptable and flexible as a result of being in a new culture. But then also we have certain programs that hone in on a skill. For example, we have 3 consulting-based programs that hone in on consulting skills specifically. Then you also have access to new topics of study. So we do our best to leverage the expertise of our faculty to expose you to new topics. And I want you to keep an open mind while you're in this information session to maybe take a course that might be outside of the core topic of your degree program. Then these opportunities are also a great way of developing and expanding your network. So through our GW faculty-led programs, we have, you can be exposed to students from other programs, not just through the School of Business, but also outside the School of Business. And then if you're part of one of our short-term exchanges, they usually open up their programs to students from their partner universities. So you would be networking with students from other top business schools in the US, but also globally. And then lastly, all of our short-term programs are offered during the break, so winter, spring, and summer. And we do this so that they don't conflict with your regular on-campus classes. So these are really great ways of advancing more quickly in your degrees and knocking out credits in a short amount of time. So I just want to give a little plug on how STAPs are selected so you have an idea of how we select them. So we have 2 different types, faculty-led programs and then short-term exchanges or partner-led. So for the faculty-led programs, we have a proposal process that happens once a year. We send out a call for proposals for my faculty, and then we have a selection committee that selects our faculty-led programs for the year. So that being said, I do want to say, make sure that you apply for a faculty-led program if you see one that's of interest, because we do depend on the availability of our faculty and their proposals to offer these programs year after year. So it's not a guarantee that we might have a faculty-led program the next year. So make sure to apply if you see one that you really like. And then our partner-led programs, these are programs that are run and developed completely through one of our 21 partner universities. I did want to point out there is a 2-step application process with these programs. So we will review your application and then accept you. And then once you're accepted, you will be nominated by us to the partner. And then they will review your application. And the final decision to accept you will actually rest with the partner university. And then lastly, I did want to point out that some of our partner-led programs have few spots available just because they opened their program to several partner schools. So we may have a couple of spots, and I'll point out those programs to you later on. So without further ado, I did want to pass it along to Professor Matus to talk about her program.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Good evening, everyone. It's such a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming. So tonight, I'd like to invite you to join me this summer on a pretty amazing journey that will cut straight into the extraordinary peoples and ecosystems and also tourism challenges that Indonesia is facing. We have offered these international experiences, at least through the tourism department, for about 17 years. So it's a program that has sort of a long history. And Indonesia really offers a unique backdrop this year. As many of you may know, Indonesia, for its iconic destinations like Bali, Bali receives about 41% of all the tourists that arrive in that country. And so, you know, tourism has grown up and developed in Bali, largely in Indonesia. And the government has some pretty ambitious plans for growing tourism there. They hope to bring about 10 new Balis. So they've kind of chosen places around the country and are aggressively promoting development in these places. So they find themselves in a pretty critical juncture. And so the international experience being offered this year will take students into Bali to really experience all the critical issues that they are facing today in order to ensure that they are planning a future that will be sustainable for their people. The client in this case will be the Ministry of Tourism and their tourism institutes. We will focus on 2 destinations, Bali being one. So Bali will offer us all the experiences of a mature tourism destination that, you know, is very mass tourism focused. And then we will spend a second week in Bandung, which is in West Java. That is a more emerging destination. So the experience really offers a unique opportunity to look at the contrast and the issues in these 2 very different destinations at different points of development. You will work alongside students from the tourism institutes in these 2 places, both Bali and Bandung. The course is a 6-credit program, so it's 2 courses stacked together. The first focuses on the consulting process, and this first course will prepare you to work as a consultant, but then also prepare you with the field work needed to actually travel to Bali for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks in June, where you will conduct on-site field work, interviews, going out to site visits with your peers from the tourism institutes there, so students in master's level programs, both in Bandung and also Bali. Our clients are providing accommodations and ground transportation, so that's a huge sort of benefit and really holds the price point down. So we hope that you will consider joining us. Now, the substantive work will be significant. In Bali, they are challenged with the impacts of the massive growth that they've seen. And so you will be looking to assess the destination from a sustainability standpoint. In Bandung, the needs are a little bit different. There, the government has set some very ambitious goals. They'd like to establish 10,000 homestays by next year. And so they've been working on this, and so the idea is to help them understand what the current situation is and how to ensure that these small tourism enterprises are in fact competitive and sustainable. Most students that participate in this program speak about the transformational element, not only from a professional standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. And so on that note, I'd like to invite Elizabeth Jordan, who joined the program last year. Last year we were in Havana, Cuba, looking at the competitiveness of small enterprises, tourism enterprises, in 3 neighborhoods there. So Elizabeth, do you mind sharing your experiences?
Sure. First, I recognize some folks, but how many in attendance are actually in the Masters of Tourism program? Okay, so about half and half. So I'll just offer my experience, more from the experience of the class perspective. While I was in a different destination, the components of the class each year, so like I said, it's been 17 years running, and are the same. So from what you mentioned, the personal transformation and the professional transformation experience, whether you're a tourism student or not, this course is actually really an excellent option. Last year we had quite a few actually non-tourism students, and for me that was one of the kind of highlights of the experience, was meeting a lot of new students I had never met before, learning more about what their programs were and their background and why they were drawn to this program, and then also seeing it from a different perspective of what they were getting out of it. So whether you are a tourism student or not, kind of keep that in mind, and that's one of the things that I think that this course in particular really draws together different types of students. For the tourism students, it's certainly almost like it has a reputation in our program, I think, as being one of the classes that everyone should take. The 6 credits is really great for anyone. It does help you advance your program and move on a lot quicker if you'd like to. It also can come at a really unique time in your course of study. So for anyone who is moving into the fall and would be taking, for example, like the policy class, this would give you a real advanced kind of look into a lot of the issues that are discussed in that class, as well as many of the ones that come after it. So that's one really, I'd say, strong selling point for students who are interested in that class. We had a little bit of a different, we didn't get to actually work with students in Havana, so that's one piece that I wish that we had had. So I really look to hear about everyone's experience from that in Indonesia. And I guess the only other thing I'd say is that this class for me is probably the one that pushed you really into the real world experience more than almost any other one that we have in my program, at least. You really learn what it's like to be a consultant, and from Professor Matthews and the other instructors, you get a real taste of kind of how that process works. You learn all about it, and you are placed right in the middle of it. And it's really kind of one of those things that while you do those projects and classes during the semester, it's very different to be so focused on it during, I guess, like a month-long lead up, and then you're in there and you're doing it and you're presenting to the client multiple times. You're working with a large group of, we had 16, I think. So you're working with a large group of students and you're all one big team, which is something else that, at least in my classes, we haven't had a team of 16 working together. So that's one other really big experience that I actually found really valuable, while also extremely intense. So she's not lying. It is substantive work, but it's really rewarding as well. And being able to go to a country and really interface with the people there, and especially the government officials that are working in this and trying to really kind of manage something in their country, it's really rewarding, and you feel like you really have a piece of it, and you're really doing something that hopefully can actually affect change in a positive way. So if anybody has questions, you can get my email address. It's EYJORDAN, for anyone who doesn't know me, at GW. Unfortunately, I can't stay for the reception, so but I'm happy to answer questions from anyone, anytime, as you think about applying. So I encourage you to apply.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
As well, just a final note. So, the client here is really important as the Ministry of Tourism. So, as Elizabeth mentioned, there is the opportunity to really inform sort of policies here and also practical initiatives that might evolve from this. And I also would like to call out Dr. Hannah Masterly. Dr. Masterly will be joining me for the international experience in Cuba. So for those two, in Indonesia, thinking about Cuba. So for the 2 weeks in Bali and Bandung. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we're running a little behind schedule, so we'll actually just leave all questions till the end, so write your questions down if you have any program-specific ones. But we'll go ahead and move next to Dr. De Los Reyes.
Is there another slide?
Yeah, from here.
Okay. I'm not in that picture, everyone else is. Thank you. My name is Gaston De Los Reyes. I'm a professor, assistant professor in the Department of Strategic Management and Public Policy. The best way to introduce this class is to tell you where it came from. So this is truly a collaboration with my good friend and co-author and collaborator, who is the endowed chair of business ethics at FH Wien, University of Applied Sciences in Vienna. So he and I have been writing together several years. We have chapters and papers published, and one of our papers is a critique of creating shared value, which is a framework developed by Michael Porter, and we start with that and expand to look at the importance of recognizing what are the norms that are relevant for the kind of business that you're doing, and what do you do if there aren't norms, and how do you go about becoming a norm maker to generate legitimate ways of doing business in whatever it is that you're pursuing. So the idea for this course is to combine that kind of framework with deal-making frameworks. I had taught a course here, an elective that I developed called Governance Through Deal-Making, and that course builds on my experience as a deal lawyer, a corporate lawyer helping Latin American companies raise money on Wall Street. So this course brings those two pieces together, deal-making for social impact. So we are trying to understand how to recognize who's relevant to whatever our goal is, and how to put people together, organizations together, to realize a goal that advances all of their interests. So for this course, what we did was reach out to one of the funders of my friend and co-author's endowed chair, which was GSK. And GSK agreed to be the client last year. We have two students who were on that trip, Sean McNish and Han, sitting in the back as well. And the question was, how can we help GSK do business in a way that is seen as legitimate and effective in Austria, given that global headquarters has one idea of what they should be doing, but the local business practice in Austria is very different. So they had this tension, and trying to keep up with global standards was hurting them in the local market. So how do we get around that? How do we deal with that? And we came up with 6 incredibly interesting projects. We worked very intensely, and by the end of the week, we presented to GSK. We were invited back this year by the organization of pharmaceutical companies in Austria. So that's really exciting because we can actually tailor our proposals to all of the different companies. But our host, our corporate host, is going to be Novartis. So we're going to be working with Novartis, but trying to develop proposals to the whole industry in Austria around the theme restoring trust to pharmaceuticals. So we're incredibly excited about that. I would emphasize that this program is distinctive. I guess the prior program as well, but it's a great virtue to have a program where you're going to be working with students from that culture. So for our students, the chance to work in teams with Austrian students was incredibly valuable. And that laid the foundation to then go and socialize in the evenings with the same students and actually get an exposure to Vienna that was not out of a book, but was based on the students who were living there and working there. So we had a lot of fun. Absolutely, kind of the work hard, play hard was the mantra for the week. A lot of uncertainty. How are we going to come up with something? But we just kind of pushed through and helped each other and worked together. So I've basically covered everything that I wanted to tell you. So I'll just mention one of the highlights non-work-wise, which was going and spending an afternoon on the old Danube on electric boats, cruising around and jumping in the water. So there's a lot to do in Vienna, and it really enhanced the overall experience. And so I'll give the floor over to Sean now.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Sean. Just to help Patty with a pitch for you guys on the fence, I've done 2 study abroads. This was my second that I did last summer. And they're great. They're the best thing I did as part of my MBA. I talk about them in all my interviews, the friendships, the networking I did. Is really somewhere that you can't get elsewhere in the program. But about Austria specifically, it was great to have a consulting project working with a real-life client, applying the skills that we've learned through our classwork, but they're different when you're working on them in real life. The corporate social responsibility, Gaston should be the professor for the core class. I learned a lot more there than in the core MBA class. So that was great. He is right about working hard. We have 8-9 hour days where you're at the client site working hard, but the afternoons or the evenings are free. You go off, you have dinner, you can go out, socialize with Austrian students, see the museums. Austria is a beautiful city. It was really untouched during the World Wars, so if you've never been to Austria, I highly recommend it. It's very nice during the summer. And that's about all I have.
Han, what would you add from your perspective? One tidbit that makes the course distinctive.
I would say that it was very challenging, yet very fun. Some of us, clearly we worked hard and played hard too, but some of us play harder. It was such a unique experience about consulting for pharmaceutical companies. So if you guys are ever interested in doing work related to pharmaceutical or something that is policy making, I definitely recommend this class, and Austria is a fun place. I'll leave it with that. So.
Thank you, and Patty joined us for the whole week, so you can also get the inside scoop from her. And she's an excellent dancer, by the way.
Thanks for that, Gaston. Sharing my secrets over here. No, just kidding. Okay, so now we have Rob Weiner to talk about the UK courses.
Thanks, Patty. I have an itinerary from the past if you're interested in picking one up at the end. So this program is a little different. It's the only one of these programs that's not combined with consulting. And consulting is great. If you want a consulting experience, you shouldn't consider this program. Instead of consulting, what we do is we go abroad basically to learn. And so one of the things that's different is instead of spending our time cramming and crashing with our client to get our client presentation in order, instead we go out in the evening and do a combination of cultural activities and socializing. We don't do socializing with local students. We do socializing with real people. That's a combination of people in pubs who we meet, but also with the people who we're seeing, who include alums of GW who are working in London, and we usually have an alumni reception. The big difference is it's great to help other people. Go to Indonesia, and it's a little hot and humid. I hate heat and humidity, but go to Indonesia and help the people. We go to the UK because it's similar enough to the United States that we're trying to bring back ideas to help ourselves. And we have a lot of social issues and political issues and economic issues, business issues to deal with here. And the idea is we go to a country that is similar enough that their solutions and approaches to these issues could help us back here, but quite different in terms of its approach. Because we don't have a theme of hustling to get a presentation done, the theme itself instead is about the relationship between the public sector and the private sector. That's why the course is called Business in the State. It focuses on public-private partnerships and interaction between the public and private sector. The UK has a long experience, much more than the US, with both putting things in the public sector that we don't and putting things in the private sector that we don't. We focus on industries that are important here, and especially in Washington, that we think we can learn something from the British experience. So the two industries that we tend to focus the most on this year are healthcare, which has been a huge industry, huge issue in the United States in terms of policy about what should the government do, what should the private sector do. The British experience is totally different. The British experience is all healthcare is under the National Health Service and has been for many years. And we talked to somebody who was a GW alum and was a high official working with the National Health Service. So Britain has the experience of public sector health, and one question that we'll talk about is whether Britons are healthier under the public sector than Americans are under the private sector. On the other hand, we also go to talk to people in the railway system. The U.S. has a public sector, 100% state-owned intercity rail company called Amtrak. Most people are familiar with Amtrak. The British system, all intercity rail transportation is all privatized. And so there's a lot of differences between the British system and the American system. We go and talk to people, a combination of people in business, people in academia, people in government, to try to bring the ideas back here. Instead of crashing while we're there to get a client project done, we crash when we come back. And so one of the aspects of this program is it's a 10-week program integrated between on campus and abroad. And so we meet for the entire summer semester, one evening a week, to basically allow and facilitate people who are either doing internships during the summer or have a full-time job. So we meet in the evenings once a week. And we talk to people after we come back here. So for example, after we've talked to people in the privatized railway industry in Britain, we've had a high official from Amtrak come back and tell us why Amtrak is great because it's in the state sector. And we have the chance to try to put together the book learning that we do here with the street learning that we get there, including talking to people in pubs about whether they like the services that they're receiving under the public and private sector. The other difference between this program and the other programs, this is the only program that's cross-listed. It's not mostly about tourism. In fact, the industry, if you were interested in the tourism industry, we won't be covering the tourism industry at all. In addition to the healthcare industry, we focus a lot on infrastructure. You may have noticed that American infrastructure is sort of falling apart, and President Trump has been talking for a while about using public-private partnerships to try to address it. Well, the British have been using public-private partnerships to address infrastructure issues for quite a number of years, and focusing on things like schools and roads and hospitals. And we'll talk to people who work in that area and bring the ideas back here to see how they apply or don't apply in the setting here. One of the things that we do in this program that we don't do in most programs in most of our graduate schools in the U.S. here, especially here at GW, is oddly enough, we don't talk much about politics. Or if we do talk about politics, it's with sort of a grimace or a snarl that it's out there making lives more complicated. Politics are a central part of business investment and of regulation and of public policy, and we go to Parliament and talk to politicians inside Parliament. We go to Parliament, but instead of having a tour of Parliament or doing an electric boat trip down the Thames, we go inside Parliament and we actually meet with politicians there. We've had as our host a member of the House of Lords who's kind of got us inside the system to talk about the political influences on public investment, private investment, to get sort of a political view, to bring back to the idea here that our political system is quite different. And so one of the questions is, how does the political system affect what's feasible in terms of the investment issues and the government issues and the private issues? Being a cross-listed course, we mix students from the business school with students from two other main schools, the Elliott School and the Trachtenberg School, with the idea that if you're going to study interactions between the public sector and the private sector, it'd be good to work with some students who are focusing on studying for a career in the public sector and working in groups with public sector students. We have a sort of convention. It's a 6-credit course, so it's basically 3 credits for the on-campus part, 3 credits for the off-campus part. We have all the conventional trappings of a regular course, so that we try to integrate this street learning with book learning, and the conventional trappings include things like a take-home exam and a term project. But we try to kind of have a more smooth setting so that when we're abroad, we're not basically working 24 hours a day. And that we're working on the presentations as well after we come back. I didn't bring one of my past students because we have so little time. I thought it would be better to save a couple of minutes in case anybody has any questions. I don't know how much time I've used up here.
Yeah, you have about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them as well as to talk afterwards. Yes, please. And speak loud so people can hear your questions.
How stringent are the requirements for the prerequisites at the economics?
So it's not a technical class at all. You should feel comfortable with economics ideas. Those economics courses are deliberately spread out between the business school, the Trachtenberg School, and the Elliott School. If you've never had an economics course, you won't find it really meaningful. But if you've had an economics course either in college or one here, then it shouldn't be hard. It's not a technical course.
So we did one in undergrad where...
Yeah, as long as you remembered something. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Next we have Dr. Linda Maddox to talk about the 3-year course.
Hey, everybody. Say hey back to me, and you've spoken Swedish. Hey is how you say hello or hi in Swedish, and to say goodbye, it's hey, hey. So that's how easy it is to speak Swedish, but the good thing is everybody speaks English too. So I'm Linda Maddox, and I also have with me 2 students from last year who will be able to say a few things, but the person who's going to be accompanying me as my assistant is also Linda, believe it or not, Linda with a Y. So you get Linda squared in Sweden. And let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. First of all, I want to tell you why I love Sweden. I started going there my very first year teaching at GW, which was eons ago. Somebody said, there's an exchange professorship program, and would you like to do it? I said, sure. And I became really enraptured with the country of Sweden. And through the years going there, I became aware of what seems like a very similar country actually has so many subtle differences that will change you personally and from a business perspective. And one of the things that you'll get through this experiential learning project is an in-depth understanding of some of those cultural differences that I think will make a difference in your personal lives and your professional lives, because you'll be so open to looking for these subtle differences. And when you think of Sweden, what's the first company that comes to mind? Volvo, thank you for saying that. IKEA, of course, Sweden for a small country has a lot of big companies, but one of the biggest is certainly Volvo. And Volvo is our product this year. And I've worked with Volvo probably about 6 times through the years. And the last time I ever worked on a major project with them was literally the night before they were changing over to the Chinese takeover of Volvo. And so there was kind of this glum feeling at Volvo, like what's going to happen to us? Are we going to be Swedish anymore? Are we going to be able to keep up our image and our quality and so forth? And going back last year, although we didn't do Volvo as our product, we went to visit Volvo, and it's a thriving, wonderful company right now. They're so happy with the Japanese, I keep saying Japanese, sorry, with the Chinese leadership, and the company is thriving. So why do they want us to work on a consulting project with them? Well, first of all, they love GW students, so that's good. And number 2, they are looking for a way to position Volvo for a global environment. And if you think of Volvo, everybody, if you had to think of one word that you associate with Volvo, it's always safety, right? It's safety, Volvo's safe. But that sort of wore out for them because everybody became safe. And so that was not unique. So they tried to become safe and sexy and all sorts of other things. But they are still kind of searching for what is their role or position in the luxury car market. And so that's the project that you're going to be working on, should you choose to go to Sweden with us. And the project will be kicked off by a visit from Anna Hartelius, who's coming in May to GW campus just to speak to our group of however many people we have in the short-term study abroad program. So that's how much they care, that they're sending their global brand manager to introduce and kick off the project to us. And she'll also be working with the students in the class throughout the project. And during May, you'll be working with me on a competitive team basis. So the course will be divided into a number of different agencies or teams. And each of you will consult with me as your project manager and your coach, and Linda. And you'll be then heading to Sweden in early June, the best time to go to Sweden. They always have this time, they think midsummer is going to be great, but it always starts raining around June 23rd. So the first part of June is fabulous in Sweden. And so you'll be working with me, and with Linda to kind of perfect your campaign that you're going to be developing for Volvo in its positioning globally as a global luxury car leader. And when we get to Sweden, the first thing we do is land in Stockholm. And in Stockholm, it's pretty much all fun. We do a lot of cultural things. We go to Drottningholm, the Queen's Palace. We go see the Wassership. We go all over Stockholm. Stockholm's a fabulous place and very beautiful. A lot of people say it's the most beautiful capital in Europe. So it's really a very cool place to go. And then from there, we take a train across Sweden to the town of Göteborg, or Gothenburg, as English speakers say it. And that's the global world headquarters of Volvo. And there you'll be taken on, I can promise you it's a fabulous tour. You see Volvos being made in the cleanest, most amazing factory you've ever seen. I'm always amazed every time I go because the assembly line workers, who are not robots, are listening to opera and as they work. And everything is spotlessly clean. You go through their brand center. You get to go on like Disneyland rides where they show you what it's like to brake at a certain speed. It's really a wonderful experience. You'll meet with some students from the University of Gothenburg who have worked on this project before. And ultimately, the project culminates in an all-day affair at Volvo where you present, each team presents their ideas to the executives of Volvo. And in the end, Volvo picks the team that they would hire if this were a real-world situation. And then they do something really unique, and that's that they tell each team why they were hired or not hired. So a lot of times when you're in the real world, you know if you get the business, but you don't know why you didn't. Here they tell you why you didn't, but in a nice Swedish way. So you won't feel too bad about it. You'll find it cordial, lovely. The lilacs are in bloom around that time. It smells so beautiful in Gothenburg. And I think you'll really love coming with us to Gothenburg and to work on the Volvo project. And I have 2 minutes to have, I said I was only bringing Linda, but Brooke, who was in the course and who I helped around Sweden last winter when she had her foot in a cast, is here to, they're both here to tell you a little bit about why you should come to Sweden with us this year. Thank you. We have another member of the class. Did I say anything bad?
So, just to give a quick background, I'm a full-time MBA student, and this was the best program and best class I've taken thus far. I'm a second year, and I also went on a CAP program to China, which was a great experience, but this was just, anyone asks me, that's what I say. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun. Linda and I had the opportunity to be on a team together, actually, so it is very team-centric, and David was also on our team in the back, so it's very team-centric. It is competitive, but that kind of makes it more fun. It's a lot of long hours, but it's so rewarding, and it was actually very nice to get the feedback at the end from our company, what they liked, what they did wrong. I felt like, we could really bring those ideas to the forefront in our real life. And the other thing I'll say is that we had a chance to visit Volvo while we were there, and while we really liked our project, we all were like, oh, it'd be so great to hire Volvo. So I think it's an incredible opportunity. And we went in winter, so this is, much better weather.
So hi everyone, my name is Linda, also with the Y. I'll be the GA for this course, and if it speaks to any of the quality of Linda Maddox's classes, this will be my 3rd time going abroad with her. I went to Paris and Luxembourg the first time, to Sweden with Brooke last year, and every time I come back, every time you finish, you're like, I'm never going to do that again. That was so much work. But here I am, 3 years later, and it really speaks to the test of how much you're going to learn, and I would say that if I had to pinpoint a certain thing in my MBA that gave me incredible speaking skills, great presentation skills, and how to deal real world with your teammates when you're driving you crazy, this would be the class. And David giggled because it's such a teamwork heavy class, but you end up doing the highest quality of work so that even when you go and maybe you're not selected, like our team was not picked to be the winner, but we walked off knowing that they gave the highest quality work that we could have done. So that's a really great experience, and so I hope to see you guys in Sweden. Thank you.
for sharing about the programs. That was really great to hear. So right now, I'm going to really zip quickly through our short-term exchange programs that are offered through our partner universities. So quickly, these are programs that have a combination of lectures, site visits, and cultural activities, and they're run and developed completely through our partners. They are restricted to GWSB graduate students, so in case you're from another school, just keep that in mind. So the first program that I'll talk about is through Fudan University School of Management. It's actually the first time that we're running this program through GW. Fudan has run it a couple of years through their office. So we do ask that students that go through us be a little bit more flexible because we don't have the full picture of what it's like just from Fudan, but not from student experience. And I did want to say we got an update on the dates. If you either applied or looked at the brochure online, we had tentative dates there, but now we have them fixed. So it's July 1st to July 13th if you're interested in that program. Then we also have a program through Copenhagen Business School. This partner actually provides a program in the spring, very focused on sustainability. This is more of a generalist program, so you have a huge list of courses that you can choose from. It's a bit of a longer course, so for part-time students, it's might not be the best, but if you're a career changer, for example, this might be a course that could fit in with your schedule. But basically, we have CBS faculty that teach, but also visiting faculty, so you get a lot of different cultural experiences by doing this course. Then we have a course through our another partner, EDIC Business School. For this course, it takes place in Nice in the south of France. And you have two options. So you can either do the Globalizing Europe course or Leisure and Lifestyle. So the Globalizing Europe course is really looking at business in Europe in that context. And then Leisure and Lifestyle is looking at luxury brands. So if you're interested specifically in luxury brands, this would be interesting to you, or also if you're a tourism student. Then another French partner that we have is STAP Business School, which is right outside of Paris. And they have a module called the Global Manager in Europe. So you're looking at management practices specifically in the European context. And the dates are June 25th to July 13th. Something to keep in mind with this partner is that they have a very small cohort and they recruit from different partner schools. So we do only have 1 or 2 spots available for the program. And we do require that students have 2 to 3 years of work experience, which with this group isn't a problem. So you should all be eligible. Then European Business School, which their main campus is right outside of Frankfurt, they offer a course in successful leadership in Europe. And so they are actually changing their structure a little bit from past programs. You have the option of doing either 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks are more of a basic program, and then the third week is an elective that you can add on. So the first 2 weeks are in Frankfurt at their main campus, and then the third week you get to go to Berlin. Then we have a program through Tel Aviv University, and it's on entrepreneurship and innovation. And Tel Aviv is a really prime location for this topic. Tel Aviv University really leverages their connections with their alumni and also with the startup community to provide a really strong program on this topic. And if you all have applied before in the winter term, we also have an iteration of this program in the winter. But there's a lot more applicants since the full-time MBAs actually have an opportunity to apply. But in the summer, there's a few more, it's less competitive. So if you want to take advantage of this program and apply in the summer instead of the winter, this is a good time to do that. And then last but not least, our partner, STAP Business School, also has a campus in Singapore. And so you have 2 options for this program. You can either do a Global Manager in Asia track, or you can do a Corporate Finance track. And it's a pretty interesting course because basically SEC opened up their summer semester for their SEC students that are in the Singapore campus for their summer, and you would be joining for the first half of their semester. So you'd be interacting with SEC students, and you just can't participate in Block 2 because it conflicts with the start of our fall semester. And And then, since we're here, I just did want to give a little bit of a plug for long-term study abroad. I know that for part-time students, it's not an opportunity that really jumps out because most of you have jobs. But if you're a career changer in between jobs, or if we have had this situation in the past where a student has been transferred for work to one of the locations of our partner universities, this is an opportunity that you can take advantage of if you're in one of those situations. And so we have an information session on Tuesday, January 30th, from 5 to 6 in Funger 520, if you'd like to learn more about our partner universities. We have hundreds of different electives that you could take advantage of, and each of the partners are specifically chosen for their areas of expertise. So I'd encourage you to consider it. Now I just want to go through some final details on the application process and addressing common questions that you might have. So first, you do have to apply for these programs, and we use a platform called GW Passport, which is online. So if you go on our website and click into our short-term programs section of the website and click into any of the programs that we mentioned today, it'll take you to the web brochure for that specific program, and there will be an Apply Now button. So that's how you apply to the program. And we encourage you to apply to all programs of interest. So there's no cap on the number of programs you can apply to. And like I said before, sometimes programs may not be offered the next year. So if you see one that you really like, go ahead and apply. And then there is scholarship funding available. We're actually upping our scholarships this summer. We have 18 available, and they're at $1,250 each. And then we also have a blog scholarship available. So if you're interested in blogging about the program that you're admitted to, that scholarship would be $1,500. So just a reminder that the application closes at 11:59 on February 4th. So don't wait till midnight to submit the application. And to give you a little bit of an idea of the timeline, once the application closes, we have 5 business days for the faculty to review the faculty-led program applications, and then our office to review the short-term exchange applications. Then we have a small window to review the scholarship applications of admitted students. And then about 10 days after the application closes, you'll hear both if you have been admitted to a program and then also if you've received a scholarship. So that way you have all the information at the same time. And then lastly, because we kind of move quickly on these, 10 days is a pretty good timeline for hearing back on whether you were admitted to a program. We also ask that you move quickly to let us know if you're going to commit to the program. So to commit, you submit a $500 deposit, and that deposit is actually kind of paying yourself because it will show up as a credit on your summer bill, and that goes toward tuition or the program fee, if there's a program fee associated with your course. We get this question a lot, but our office actually enrolls you in the course, so you wouldn't enroll like you do for a normal class. And then there are some additional expenses, of course, related to study abroad, and that usually comes in the form of a program fee. So the program fee is anything that we arrange on your behalf. So lodging, group transportation, those sorts of costs are rolled into a program fee, which would show up on your bill in addition to the tuition for the course. And then lastly, we do ask that you wait for either the faculty or our office to let you know when to purchase flights, because we just want to make sure that you have all the details in terms of itinerary and all that before you purchase your flights. And then we want to make sure that you're ready for travel. So if you don't have a passport, get one. The passport office is actually very close to campus, so there's no excuse. And then if you do have a passport, check the expiration and renew it if necessary. And then if you are an international student, we highly encourage you to go to the International Services Office to check what your requirements are for studying abroad. And then lastly, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our office, sbintl@gwu.edu. In the next slide is our main email for general questions, but there's all these other ways of getting in contact with us as well. So I'm just going to check the time and see how we're doing. Okay, great. So we have about 7 minutes, which is good. So if you all had any questions, program-specific questions that you wanted to direct to any of the faculty that we didn't didn't get a chance to get to, or if you have general questions, now is the time to go ahead and ask those. Yeah, go ahead.
I know for the Indonesia trip, there's an interview that you need to schedule. Do we do that on Passport also, or how does that look?
Yeah, would you like to?
So the way that works is as you apply, I do it on a rolling basis. So I would write you and schedule, an interview on iPhone or in person. You're on campus, I just meet with you. And it's just a short sort of interview where you set expectations so you have a better sense of what the program is about and what the sort of basic guidelines are. And then to hear from you what you want to accomplish from the programs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So for a number of the programs, we heard that there's prep work required before going to the location, and I just wanted to know what's the amount of time? Is it once a week for 4 weeks prior to the trip? And it might differ from program to program.
That's exactly how it is for my class, and it is possible to attend those courses on a distance basis. So you don't need to be in DC. I will work with you to make it work.
Are they usually in the evening?
In the evening.
Okay.
Details for specifics, you can go into our website and we have the on-campus sessions and it'll show if there's an online option available and it'll give you the exact dates for those sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's listed. I did notice that it has been corrected that Friday is at noon instead of in the afternoon. So there's one Friday afternoon listed in mine, and I heard that a number of you work on Friday afternoons, so I moved it to the night. And so when you look on that, if you have questions, just email me.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Is there anywhere, I'm not sure if it's on the website, I haven't checked it, but are there estimates of each of the program fees available somewhere?
Yes.
So okay, I don't know if I missed that.
Oh yeah, no worries. In each of the web brochures, there will be a cost section, so you'll just click in and then it'll show you the estimates.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Well, if there are no other questions, I won't keep you from the food. Go outside and enjoy some refreshments, and then you'll have a chance to talk to the faculty and the former participants. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, I see.
So I'm going to